What's going on? Jake here with UNCOMMONEDC. Today we're going to be taking a look at the D2 Stub 2.0 by Maratac. If you're not familiar with Maratac, it is the in-house brand of CountyComm, which is where you can find this knife sold for $30 in the titanium Topo version that you see here, or for $25 in a couple other handle options. I'll make sure to leave a link to both down in the description of the video, as well as list my coupon code UNCOMMONEDC, which will save you a couple dollars off of whatever option you end up going with if you decide to purchase one of these. Now, first thing you probably notice as soon as I picked this one up off the table, or even as soon as my hands entered the frame of the camera, is that this knife is absolutely tiny, only 3.64 inches in overall length. And yes, I said that right, that wasn't the handle length or the blade length, 3.64 inches overall. And of course that means that from a practicality standpoint, this is not going to make a great primary EDC knife. It's just too small. That doesn't mean that it's not functional though. I think this would serve great as a desk knife that you use when opening packaging, or even a secondary or tertiary knife that you drop in your fifth pocket. Maybe you're carrying an automatic knife or something a little bit larger and more intimidating that you don't really feel comfortable pulling out in an office environment. You can pull this out and not worry about intimidating anyone with such a small knife. I think you can remove the pocket clip, toss this in an Altoid survival tin. So plenty of things that you can do with it. I would never want this to be my primary knife, but I find these things a lot of fun. Now, another thing that's kind of fun about this one is the name Stub 2.0, and that implies the existence of a predecessor. So in the product description, they list that the original Stub came out in 2020. And I'm pretty sure I own the knife, but it gets a little bit confusing because the knife that I own is a Boker Stubb. And so I have a couple of these actually, but this one I purchased in 2020 from CountyComm. It was a CountyComm exclusive, also serialized out of 1,000. You can see this one is 925, and it was a CountyComm exclusive for the handle material. The knife itself was not. Boker did sell these on other retailers, even sold them directly. And so it makes it kind of confusing of how this one ended up being the Stub 2.0 when the original Stub was Boker. And so maybe they worked out some sort of deal, or maybe there was a Maratac Stub that I just missed. I think that's pretty unlikely. I've been shopping at CountyComm for well over a decade and pretty familiar with most of the products that they've launched over the years. And I think I would know if there was another knife named Stub, but I definitely don't own one from them. So let me know if there is and I'm just completely mistaken. But if we take a look at the two side by side, there's also some pretty big differences. So obviously the sizing is kind of a direct comparison. It's a little bit larger, and it says that in the listing that it's a little bit larger than the original Stub, but the handle shape is similar but not identical, and our blade shapes are completely different. We also get a thumb stud instead of our thumb hole that we have on the 2.0, and a frame lock rather than the liner lock, although that's similar enough that I would probably say that maybe with different materials you'd still get a frame lock on the Stub 2.0. But either way, it feels more like a spiritual successor than a direct successor, since they're not really the same knife and weren't even made by the same company. And it all gets a little bit more confusing from there though, because there's another knife that I purchased from CountyComm, I think even earlier than the Boker Stubb, and I didn't go back and check the dates. The Boker Stubb I definitely ordered in 2020. I think this one was probably around there, maybe a little bit earlier. It could have been 2019. But this is the Maratac Reaction. And as you can see with this one, this is a more direct comparison to our Stub 2.0. The handle shapes are identical, lanyard holes in the same spot. One big difference is that the Reaction doesn't have a pocket clip where the Stub 2.0 does, but D2 steel as well, serialized out of 1,000, and the same exact blade shape. We get a thumb hole on both and a liner lock on both. Another kind of minor difference is that we have a hollow grind on our Reaction versus the flat grind on our Stub 2.0, but you can see it's pretty much identical to the Stub 2.0. So it's interesting that it wasn't the Reaction 2.0 or the Reaction Stub or something like that. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I just thought that was kind of an interesting bit of history when it comes to the Stub. And so we'll put those off to the side and get back to this. Now, I don't remember if I mentioned these are serialized out of 1,000, so once they're gone, but they do have plenty of other handle options as well. This is still in stock at the time I'm recording though, and you can see I ended up with 733. Now, these are vacuum sealed when you get them, and there's a sticker on the outside telling you which one you got, so if you didn't want to open it, I suppose you don't have to, but I did end up opening mine. Also worth noting, those other handle materials, I ended up ordering the titanium Topo that you see here. They accidentally shipped me the micarta version, and so I initiated an exchange. It was all really easy. I emailed them, they got back to me in like 20 minutes, and it just had me send a picture, and then they sent me a shipping label, shipped it back for free, and they shipped me the titanium version that I had originally ordered. And so really loved that one though. The texturing on the titanium is great, it looked great, and kind of fell in love with it. As soon as I sent it back, I kind of wanted it back. So I may end up ordering the micarta version of this as well, but both are really great options. I love this Topo pattern, and I like the opportunity to maybe eventually anodize this one. I haven't decided if I'm going to or not, but I always love anodizing titanium, and so I think that would be kind of fun to just make it uniquely mine. Now, I already mentioned the overall length, 3.64 inches. That means that we get a 1.85 inch blade, and so that is tiny, but it's still, like I said, a very functional blade for utility cuts, for slashing, for that sort of thing. If you need it for opening packages, I think these small blades are great because there's less likely that you accidentally over penetrate and cut the contents of the package. And so the original Boker Stubb, I think I mentioned in a video previously, that one lived on my desk for probably over a year and a half or two, and it was what I would use anytime I got a package while I was working from home. And so do think this would serve really well in that role as well. In fact, that may be what I end up doing with this one. And so our blade is 1.85 inches. It's got a drop point style blade. I already mentioned it has that flat grind, and they do have D2 steel, which I think is great. The construction on these is honestly super, super nice. It feels like an ultra premium knife for only 30 bucks. So that's really nice. And I felt the same way about the micarta version, which was $5 cheaper. We have a liner lock on here, plenty of access. It's a little bit of a rough jimping on there, kind of aggressive jimping, but it works well and it's easy to access. This one is a two-handed opener for me. With the reaction, I am able to middle finger flick that one if I get the right grip on it. I haven't been able to do that with this one, not for lack of trying. It just, when I am able to partially flick it open, it ends up going like halfway and not been able to get a full deployment. Although when the kind of action works itself in, it may be possible eventually, but so far have had no such luck. Our handle is 2.07 inches in length, so pretty short. It is pretty stocky though, about 1.25 inches wide as well. It's fairly thin though, at a little under half an inch in thickness, and it does offer a 2-finger grip. So can't get my third finger on there at all, just that 2-finger grip. Pretty stable grip though, and very comfortable as far as 2-finger grips go. It does have a lanyard hole, and I think this one would be a great candidate for a lanyard and bead to give you just a little bit of extra to grab onto. And then we have our pocket clip. That's where the serial number is, as well as some of the information. So TI 733 out of 1,000, and then it has their cage number. And so that's swappable right or left hand carry, which is nice. And we do get a plug even for the left hand pocket clip hole. And so really, really nice touch there. Like I said, I think it would be kind of cool to remove this and include it in like an Altoid survival tin if that's something that you're into. I've built several of them over the years. I never end up actually carrying them. I'll carry them for a day or two, and then they end up getting lost in a backpack or the center console of my car, and so may revisit that one day. But like I said, I've never had any luck actually carrying it. I always end up just stopping after a few days. But really cool knife overall. I know it's not the most practical knife, but I really enjoy stuff like this. It just kind of exists for the sake of existing. It doesn't do anything the best, you know. There's a better option no matter what task you plan on using it for, even if it's just opening packages and things like that. You can get like a Kiradashi. There are better options out there for really any task you can do with it, but I always just enjoy knives like this where they're just made to be fun little knives. Let me know what you think of this one though down in the comments. Do you pick up knives like this, or if they're not really the most practical, is that something that you typically avoid? I know there's a lot of people out there that really just go for practicality, but for me, it's a fun hobby. I enjoy weird stuff like this, and I think this is just a super wicked, weird little knife. But thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, joining the channel as a member, checking out some of my other videos, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.